All right, it's time to get this B out, get the deck off, and get the deck cleaned and painted. So let's do that. Now, what a lot of guys will do when it comes to this stage of cleaning up a deck is they will get out a power washer and they'll power wash the deck off. If you do that, you really stand a good chance of injecting water into your tower bearings here, here, and here. And if you do that and you inject water into those bearings, they'll rust and the bearings will go bad really fast. So in all the time I've been running lawnmowers, I have never power washed a deck ever. A very wise guy that sold me my first lawnmower told me that. He said, don't do it. Do not power wash your deck. So I never did. And my first Simplicity tractor ran for 26 years. And I took the deck off that tractor and I put it on another one I'd bought, which was really cheap to get me through a summer, until I bought this machine to replace it. This machine was bought in 2010. So this machine is now 10 years old. And I've never power washed the deck. I haven't done anything to this other than sharpen the blades, clean it, paint it, do maintenance on the tractor. It has been an incredibly good machine. So what I'm going to do here is just clean the deck off. I'm going to flip it up, clean it underneath, get it all blown out with air under there, and then paint it. Because what paint does, a lot of guys will oil their decks, and that's really good to do, but in my opinion, painting them is the best thing to do, because what you do is the following summer you wear that paint off. You don't wear the steel off. And the deck stays very, very good, thick, and heavy. So I've always done that. I've painted this deck. This will be the 10th year I've painted it, and it looks great. You can see this deck has no rust. It's excellent. So anyway, you can do what you want, but I found that works best for me. So let's get this stuff off here and get it cleaned up. Nice. Harbor Freight, here I come. Now you can see here, there's baling twine wrapped around that center blade. That's why you see us taking the twine off of all the bales, because that stuff gets in there and it wraps up in there and it just makes a mess. I didn't realize that was on there. Obviously I would have cut it off a long time ago. Okay, now we'll take the blades off. You can see how that is wrapped all the way around underneath that. That stuff is nasty. That's why I try to take it off of everything. Now I always set these together, and I always utilize that, and I clean them separately. I sharpen them separately. Now this blade really doesn't look like it's going to need too much. There's a nick here and a little bit, but you don't really sharpen these super sharp because all they do is dull really quick. So you kind of put like a good edge on them, and then I usually run them over like a piece of pipe or something, just to dull them a little bit, and they seem to perform way better that way. And they have two spacers to go exactly the right spacing, and then this goes over that, and that's how they stay on there. Now this blade is actually in pretty dang good shape. It won't need much. And you'll notice I set these in sequence. So center, right to me, and then the other one will go here, so I know when I put them back on exactly where they go. I don't know if it matters, but I know the middle one's a little different. Well, no, it's not. They're all the same. I take that back. Get rid of that crap. Get all the loose stuff off with a putty knife, and I'll get my air-powered fingers out, and we'll do the rest. Come off too, and you can see all the crap under there. So I usually take those off and clean these good. I usually wire brush these down with my wire brush. Get the fingers out and start those. Cam lock. Airs up the tool. Alright, hearing protection. These things are awesome. You can get them a lot of places. This isn't like a high end, but it works for doing the small amount of work I do with it a year, and it makes it a lot easier, as you saw. So now I'm going to blow this off, get the loose stuff off, and we're going to paint it. This is about all you really need to do. You just need to get it down and get all the stuff from last year off, the heavy stuff, and then basically just paint right over this, because you could work for hours and hours and hours getting this off, and that really doesn't matter because it's basically just protecting the metal. That's what I do. Seems to work. So let's do that. Alright, dust has settled down. Let's paint her. Don't mind getting dirt on my hands, but I certainly don't like trying to get paint on it. This deck is 10 years old, and I've done this every year to it. I do not paint these, and I don't paint under here because there's no grass under here where the grass, it doesn't get in here. But I paint this, and this deck has just been great. Totally, from cleaning it up and painting it, takes me about an hour and a half. I think it's time really well spent to do this, especially if you have a deck that's very expensive like this one is. This deck, I don't even want to know what it would cost me to replace it, but it would cost me a lot of money. Next will be getting the blades sharpened up. I'll video that. I'll clean up the caps, and then we'll put it back together, put it on the tractor, and this tractor's going out back under the shed. It'll be tarped, and there'll be a battery buddy put on it to preserve the battery for the winter, because I don't run this tractor at this point in the winter at all. So this is just going to set right where it is till tomorrow. My coal stove's running. That will be a good thing to just let this set, not do anything in here today, the rest of the day. Don't start up any more dust or anything. Just leave it set, and by morning it'll be dry. I buy these cheap brushes. This is a 3-inch. I usually buy these at the dollar store or Harbor Freight or someplace where I can get them dirt cheap. And when I'm done, I throw them away. There's no sense in washing them when you can get them for 50 cents. I moved my deck from over here back over to here. It's right by my coal stove. The deck is almost dry. You can see that you can touch it and you don't get any paint, but it's tacky in spots. So I'm gonna let it set by the coal stove and cure while we go over to there and get the blades ready and sharpened. So let's do that. Getting ready to sharpen these blades. This blade, as I said yesterday, doesn't really need anything. It looks good. What we'll do with this one is we'll balance it later. This is the center blade, and as far as I can see, it doesn't need anything either. There's a little tiny gap here, a little chip, a dent, I guess you'd call it. But the rest of the blade looks pretty good and sound. So I think we'll leave that one as well. This one is the right side, and it's got a few dents in it. And you can see there's a chip here. So we'll work on this one a little bit. It's the only one I think it needs it. The grinder has a cutoff blade in it, which I don't want to use for this, so let's change it. Okay, that's the blade I want to use on that. All right, ear protection on, safety glasses on. Please don't ever do this without safety protection. Your eyes are way too important. And so are you. Yeah, that side looks great. Flip it and do the other. Okay, those sides are both good. There's still a little chip here, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now I've got these a little too sharp. So what you do, you just run them like that on your vise, and you just take that edge off. And that one is the same way. And that's perfect. The reason why you do this is because you don't need them really, really sharp to cut the grass. When you stop and think about it, everybody that you know has used a weed eater. Does it have a sharpened blade on it like that? It has a string on it that's round. Or sometimes flat, but very little time are they sharp. And they cut grass great. What you'll do with these blades is if you get them too sharp and you hit something, they'll crack and they'll chip. If you have it a little bit dull and they hit something, they won't do that. At least that's what my experience tells me. Now real quick, I got my roll around grinder out here, and we're going to clean up these caps and then put the blades on. Always wear eye and hearing protection when you're doing any of this stuff. The way you balance these is you hang them on a nail. I've tacked the nail on, and you see if they go down on one side or another. Now that one is pretty well balanced. I don't think I'm going to mess with that one. That one looks pretty good. All right, let's get another one. And if you need to do anything to these, if they're really off, you just grind down the heavy side. That one. Is good as well. And that one's balanced as well. Now what you'd do in the case that if you had one that was out of balance is you'd come out here with your grinder and just nip a little bit off that until it balanced perfectly. If this was the heavy side. If this was the heavy side, you take a little tiny bit off here. Let's mount the blades and get that done. I've got the cap on the first one. I've got my spacers, my washer spacers on. These cutter blades have to go on a certain way or it won't cut right, of course. So you want your cutter bar on the bottom, like that. Then the hex goes on, fits over the hex. I've never seized my bolts, so they go on. I've got the cap on this one. I've got the washers on. This is the center blade. Cutter goes at the bottom. On there. Hex goes on. Oh. Cap. Two spacer washers. Blade, right side down. These cam locks here have to be set up and put into the slot. This arm is all the way up. I've already done that on the other side, so now it's time to roll the deck under. Let's do that. Now, we've got to get these lined up right here to here. And that looks pretty close. Right there. And look at this side. It's back back too far. Okay. They're looking good. This is the adjustment for the deck. It has to be on 0 for that to get down far enough to hook up. So now we can shut it down, and the next step is to hook up the drive shaft. And there it is. All right. That does it underneath. Everything's done under here. So let's hook up the front end and go from there. I've got all my parts here for the front of the deck, so let's put that on. This one slides up onto the deck and locks into it like that. This cam lock gets opened and set. This comes up, and you have to make sure that you get it right here. It goes right there. That rotates around up to this, goes up there, locks in, and you're done. I won't monkey with this tractor again until spring. In the spring, right before the mowing and rototiller season, I bring it in, I change the engine oil, I do that every year. I change my transmission oil on hours. I will clean that tractor up at that point, and then it's ready for the season. So I won't touch this tractor until probably April, May, somewhere in that area. And I'll video that as well. So that does it for this episode of Winter Shop. Stay tuned, there's many more.